Hi, this is Mobile Network Comparison, and welcome to our new series of videos. Together with Scottie LaDeaux from the Fortress of Nerditude, we're counting down a recap of 2013 in the mobile world. So there were lots of really great things happening last year, starting at the very beginning of the year, when Samsung announced that they had sold over 100 million Galaxy S smartphones. We also had lots of stories about mobile operating systems, starting with the first glimpse of Canonical's Ubuntu phone operating system at the Mobile World Congress in February. April saw the first devices running the HTML5 based Firefox OS, and of course iOS 7 came out soon afterwards. Google even surprised everyone in September by not going with Key Lime Pie for its next version of Android, and instead teaming up to brand version 4.4 as Android KitKat. So what other big stories from last year were there? Well, there was of course the release of the BBM app at long last in October, and we also quite liked giffgaff starting to sell handsets themselves in November. But what do you think were the biggest tech stories from last year? If you think we've missed anything out, let us know with a comment. We've narrowed things down to a top 10, and Scottie's actually already kicked things off with a video about the next generation of games consoles. So Scottie's got a really great YouTube channel if you don't know it already, and I really recommend you check it out, especially as he makes lots of great videos about custom ROMs. And in fact, just pause this video right now to head over and watch his number 10 in our countdown. But for now, let's go on and introduce our video, which is number 9, and this is one of the most exciting pieces of news, at least for mobile addicts, and that is the long-awaited results from the Federal Aviation Administration study into using portable electronic devices in flight.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we prepare for takeoff, please turn off all electronic devices.
Why?
What's that?
Well, why do we have to turn off our electronic devices?
Because they can interfere with the plane's navigation.
Oh, okay.
So anyway...
How?
We feel more than anything that's actually more a victory for common sense, because anyone with even the most rudimentary physics knowledge knows that there's minimal, if any, risk from electromagnetic interference caused by tablets, phones, laptops, and this sort of thing. It's just not going to bring the plane down no matter what, or even interfere with communications in any way. But previously, the regulations had meant that personal electronic devices could only be used once the plane is cruising above 10,000 feet. The new guidelines suggest that you'll be allowed to listen to music or read a book anywhere during the flight, including on the ground and during takeoff and landing approaches. So this is great news in general, but 2013 as a whole also saw many carriers introducing in-flight Wi-Fi to their planes, which, to be honest, that can really make a massive difference for those long-haul flights and make them much more bearable. So at the end of the year, the Federal Communications Commission in the US also finally agreed to consider lifting its ban on using mobile phones in flight. By a narrow margin, the FCC voted 3-2, so just by one vote, in favour of the proposal, with the chairman, Tom Wheeler, pointing out that the ban is more or less redundant these days, and he said that he really strongly wanted to see mobile phone use allowed on planes sometime in 2014. So you have to be a little bit careful because this guy's impartiality is somewhat dubious. He's got quite strong links to the mobile industry. But in general, I think everyone's pretty relieved that he's finally calling out the nonsensical arguments regarding mobile phones as scaremongering pseudoscience.
I mean, I get why I can't have a radio or whatever, but how is my Kindle going to screw things up?
That's a good question.
If they're so dangerous, why do you allow devices on the plane and not, I don't know, gels?
Yeah, could I hold this plane hostage with my 3DS?
Some devices are more dangerous than others, but there isn't enough time to go through them one by one.
I mean, after all, in much of the rest of the world, voice calls have been allowed on flights, and it's only the US that's kind of waiting to catch up. But those Americans out there who are listening to this, don't get too excited too soon. Individual airlines and the FAA would each be allowed final say to veto allowing voice calls on aeroplanes. And already we've got Delta Airlines announcing that regardless of whatever the decision is and whether they get approval, they would not be allowing people to use their phones on their planes. Meanwhile, the European Commission has officially approved the use of 3G and 4G mobile internet on flights, allowing planes to carry their own mobile cell transmitters, which are linked to the ground via these satellite connections and basically mean you get internet on the plane. We thought this news was really worth a mention because it's definitely a highlight for 2013 for us. It's a big step forward. It's taken a while, but having 3G and 4G, just standard roaming on your phone, is really great when you're travelling a lot, and British company Aeromobile have been the big pioneers in this. I mean, you might not know this, but actually they've been using voice and text services on flights since 2004, and they actually launched officially their roaming service for mobile phones on aeroplanes way back in April 2007. So although this is good, important news for 2013, it's really just a continuation of what's been coming before. We're really excited about this because it's just great to hear that the US is finally realising how outdated these regulations are and catching up with everyone else. But while we were thinking about this piece of news and putting it in our top 10 countdown, we're going to finish this video and then we remembered something else that was reported last year. So get ready for this and hit the like button if this sounds a little bit crazy. A security researcher and former pilot demonstrated an exploit where he used a simple Android app to control an aircraft's flight management systems without permission. Yes, really. So this terrifying report demonstrates how mobile phones are capable of intercepting transmissions from the automatic dependent surveillance broadcast as well as the aircraft communications addressing and reporting system, which are two sort of communication systems that control the plane, and they can spoof signals to allow someone to literally hack the plane. These technologies are old and very insecure, which means you can actually control any aeroplane in range of your phone. And this guy developed a really advanced app that lets you dynamically change the aircraft's course by tapping on a location on a map. And you can even set conditional filters so that it will only activate when certain requirements are met. For example, you can wait until all the crew have gone to sleep and switch autopilot on, and then bam, everything starts happening. So you can even do, you can mess around flicking the lights and alarms on and off in the plane. There's even a little bit of black humour in the app with a special function labelled Visit Ground, which causes it, predictably, to crash. So if you're interested to learn a little bit more about this, there's a lot more detail about the actual mechanism by which this works on our blog. So check out the description link for full reports on this story. But in general, just don't worry too much about your next flight. The exploit hasn't been publicly released, obviously, and the aviation industry is already working to close these security flaws. But in general, we thought this was fascinating. The news that mobile phones are about to be allowed to be used on flights pretty soon makes it a little bit more terrifying how poor the security is in all these legacy systems. So that's our first piece of news for 2013. Let us know your opinions on this in the comments below. What do you think? Would you like to be able to make calls when on a flight? Or are you one of these people who thinks there's nothing worse than being stuck next to someone who's not only hogging the armrest and the window seat and spilling over into your seat, but also having a detailed high-volume conversation with their gastroenterologist throughout your entire trip? I don't know, I'm not so sure about that. So anyway, thanks for watching. That's our first look back at the top stories from 2013. Stay tuned, look out for the next instalment in this series on Scottie LaDeaux's channel, and subscribe to ours for more mobile news. We've been Mobile Network Comparison. Thanks for watching. Bye.